What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we may be on the verge of getting two legends in a trilogy match once again. We had former undisputed heavyweight world champion, iconic, legendary superstar boxer, Iron Mike Tyson. He returned to the ring after a 15-year layoff at the tender age of 54 in November against legendary multi-division Hall of Fame world champion superstar boxer Roy Jones Jr. in an exhibition bout. And now we could possibly get former undisputed cruiserweight world champion, former two-time undisputed heavyweight world champion, superstar iconic Hall of Fame boxer Evander, the real deal Holyfield, returned to the squared circle against Iron Mike Tyson. Okay? This is huge news as an investing group have offered to put up 200 million pounds to have this trilogy staged in Dubai. Okay? 200 million pounds to have the trilogy staged in Dubai on Mike Tyson's app. This is huge. We know that Iron Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield, it was largely anticipated way back when, prior to Mike Tyson losing to James Buster Douglas in 1990. In February of 1990, Mike Tyson was supposed to have a stay busy fight, a tune-up fight against James Buster Douglas, who was 28-4-1. And the biggest upset in the history of the sport of boxing in Tokyo took place that night when Mike Tyson was knocked out by James Buster Douglas. But see, he was supposed to beat James Buster Douglas en route to a massive showdown with Evander Holyfield, who was sitting ringside. So this saw Evander Holyfield then have to face off against James Buster Douglas to gain the titles, as he was supposed to face Mike Tyson. So in October of 1990, October 25th of 1990, Evander Holyfield faced off against James Buster Douglas and won the titles. Okay, he won the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF undisputed. Okay, when he beat James Buster Douglas, because Mike Tyson was undisputed, Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Okay, so with that said, this fight was anticipated, Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. Then we know that after that, Mike Tyson, he went on to, regain his status. He beat Henry Tillman, Alex Stewart, Donovan Ruddock, Razor Ruddock twice. Then he had a 4-year hiatus because he was imprisoned. Then he came back in 1995. He beat Peter McNeely. Then he beat Buster Mathis in December 95. Then he had a rematch with Frank Bruno in 96, in March of 96. Then he beat Bruce Seldon, in which when he beat Frank Bruno, he regained the WBC title. Then he beat Bruce Seldon for the WBA. That was a unification bout. And then it was finally here. November of 1996. We got Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson. Okay? Mike Tyson was TKO'd in that fight in the 6th round. TKO, a shocker, massive. Then they had the rematch. So he fought Evander Holyfield in November of 1996, and then he TKO'd Mike Tyson. They had the most anticipated rematch in the history of sport of boxing, as it broke every pay-per-view record possible. Okay, it was the biggest event in the history of the sport of boxing, the rematch. Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Part 2. That took place in June 28th of 1997, a year later. Okay, in which we all know that's the infamous ear-biting fight. When Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, it was disqualified. We had the melee, and that was in 1997, June 28th of 1997. Ever since then, Evander Holyfield has been campaigning to regain a trilogy match. He stated his heir needed a trilogy match. He just wanted to step back in the ring with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson kept saying that. Evander Holyfield kept headbutting him. And so the trilogy match never came to fruition. Mike Tyson went on to beat Franz Botha. His next fight, after being disqualified against Evander Holyfield in 1999, 2 years later, he stepped back in the ring. He had a no contest with Orlin Norris. He knocked out Julian Francis, Luis Severus. He had a no contest with Andrew Galata, Brian Nelson. He knocked out. Then he had the massive showdown that also broke pay-per-view records in an undisputed match again against Lennox Lewis, in which Lennox Lewis had defeated Evander Holyfield, and he got knocked out brutally in that fight. He came back. He got a win against Clifford Etienne in 2003. The Lennox Lewis fight took place in 2002. He beat Clifford Etienne and KO'd him, but then he lost in two bad ways to Danny Williams and Kevin McBride. Okay, and so that was the ending for Mike Tyson. Okay, Lennox Lewis had beat Evander Holyfield, for undisputed back in 99. Okay, so he lost a unanimous decision, undisputed. All the belts was on the line, and Lennox Lewis won a unanimous decision. The first fight was in '99, March of 1999. It was a draw. It should have been a victory for Lennox Lewis, and Lennox Lewis got his revenge in November 1999, and then we know Lennox Lewis went on to reign, in the heavyweight division. But with that said, Evander Holyfield last stepped in the ring in 2011, May of 2011, when he TKO'd Brian Nielsen in May of 2011. But with that said, that was around Cinco de Mayo weekend. With that said, Evander Holyfield is 57 years old, Mike Tyson 54 years old, and this is a huge fight. And investors believe that, it will gross a lot of money. So investors are willing to put up, investors are willing to put up all of the money for this showdown. Okay, they're looking to put up massive amounts of money to stage this showdown. 200 million pounds for a trilogy match. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones did 2 million pay-per-views. Okay, and most people didn't anticipate that, and it did. 2 million pay-per-views, and they're expecting this to do as the trilogy broke all records. The rematch broke all records. They're anticipating this trilogy breaking all records. And so they are willing to put up the money necessary to stage the fight. Mike Tyson says that he's on board. Evander Holyfield says he's on board. Initially, it was reported that Mike Tyson was supposed to face Evander Holyfield in the trilogy, not Roy Jones, but negotiations fell through. And now they're stating that all parties are on board. They have an investment group that is willing to put up 200 million pounds, and people are going to pay to see it because it's an event. It's not going to have any quorums on the ranking system. It's not going to have any quorums on, who's the best in the world. It's entertainment, and it's a conclusion, because when Mike Tyson, he was TKO. Evander Holyfield knocked him out in the first fight, in the 6th round. In the second fight, that was the infamous the air biting situation, in which, people thought that Mike Tyson was going to knock out Evander Holyfield. He was stating that Evander Holyfield continuing to headbutt him. Evander Holyfield, was using dirty tactics. That's why he got frustrated, and ultimately resulted into the air biting situation. Evander Holyfield has stated that he has forgiven Mike Tyson for that, but his heir still needs the trilogy match. Evander Holyfield stated that he realized that when you are concussed, you will resort to biting someone. He said that he was dropped in a fight in which he bit a guy's shoulder. So he says that he was concussed and he bit a guy's shoulder. That's what you result to when you are concussed. So he's saying Mike Tyson was concussed, and that's what he resulted to. And so he wants this trilogy match. Mike Tyson, he's more hesitant, in my opinion, to make this trilogy match. I think that Evander Holyfield is more eager to make this trilogy match because he wants to prove that he was ultimately better than Mike Tyson at any point in time in their careers. I think that stylistically, Evander Holyfield, he had Mike Tyson's number. And I believe that, he was always going to defeat Mike Tyson because styles make fights. And he never had any type of back down, and he didn't view Mike Tyson. He wasn't, essentially, nervous against Mike Tyson. He felt like he was Mike Tyson's equal, if not better. He felt like, he always states that he was in just as much rough times as Mike Tyson was. So, his bringing up was the same as Mike Tyson's. He had it rough. So Evander Holyfield never saw Mike Tyson as the monster, and he always felt like he was just as tough as Mike Tyson, and that's ultimately the will was the difference in between Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. And if you look at their body language when they talk about a trilogy match, Evander Holyfield is far more willing to make the trilogy match than Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is okay with it, but you can see subconsciously he knows he can't beat Evander Holyfield. So we're going to see how this all plays out and unfolds. Evander Holyfield is 6'2". Mike Tyson is 5'11", 5'10" at best. And I think that's another thing that played a major part in this entire equation is the Evander Holyfield. He's more rangy. He's just as strong as Mike Tyson. He's bigger than Mike Tyson, but he's just as tough as Mike Tyson. He has he's 6'2.5", almost 6'3", with a 70-inch arm reach. Okay. And so I believe that, that played a major part. Mike Tyson 5'11" with a 71-inch arm reach. So he has nearly a 6-inch, 7-inch arm reach advantage over Mike Tyson. He has a 7-inch arm reach advantage, and he has a 4-inch height advantage. The difference is he doesn't fear Mike Tyson. That's the ultimate. That's the difference. So he uses that to his advantage, and that plays a major part. And he has the power. He don't have no back down, like I stated, and he's going to come forward. So I can't wait to see how this unfolds and plays out in Dubai. It's going to be historic. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notification. Follow me on Instagram at Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.